Okay, I'm going to try to do this in one take. So I had a call yesterday with a client. Actually, I'm sorry. This is a client we've engaged with probably a couple months ago, and we've just been so busy with the consulting work, we really hadn't been able to get to it. So yesterday I spent a couple hours. Their need is the following. They need to create, I think it's actually an estimate, but I had created it with sales orders, so we can always change that. So we're creating a sales order from a desk ticket using Creator. And the sales orders in Books. So you've got, is it going to go to the next thing here? There we go. Customer represents multiple client companies. So in Desk, you can create a ticket, and then you can, as long as you connect Books up, you can create an estimate or an invoice based on the ticket. So let's go over here and we'll take a look real quick in Desk, right here. So if you have a ticket, you have the ability here, if you connect Books, to be able to create an estimate in here. The thing is, you can't change who the customer is. The customer is tied to whatever the ticket is associated with. And their particular use case is this company has multiple client companies they provide support for. So if they get a ticket in from one of the companies they represent, because of their umbrella and the umbrella of the company that is represented by that ticket, they can't go to a sub-account within it. That's kind of the issue. So what we said is, okay, well, let's figure out doing a button or something. You can't do a custom button like you can in the CRM in Desk. So we thought, okay, what we could do is we can create a link. It's a dynamic link that goes to Creator. Creator then can build that estimate or sales order and then ultimately create that in Books. So circumventing the standard way of doing it within Desk and doing it using Creator. So again, we always try to use Creator in a creative way where we can kind of bend Zoho. And it's a great tool to be able to do that. It's so functional and just so malleable, I guess. So anyways, the customer represents multiple clients. They need to do that, need a way to create a sales order for a different customer in Books. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a Creator app and a form, which is basically a table within that app. We're actually going to do a couple different tables, so you'll see that. To build the sales order, then we're going to create the field in Desk for a link to that Creator form and pre-populate the ticket information. And then we're going to create a workflow in Desk with the function to create the dynamic link. Oh yeah, the dynamic link for the ticket record. And then create a workflow and function in the Creator to create the sales order in Books with the line items. Okay, so that's what we're going to do. So we come back over here, and if you remember connecting Books, you really don't have to do this piece of it, but I'll just show you where you do that. Go up to the setup, go to the marketplace and all, and then you could type in Zoho. No, I don't want to do that. Zoho, come on, you can do it. Books for Zoho Desk. I had already done it, so it's already active. You can see installed. Oh, it should be here, but anyways, you do that and you activate it and then it gets installed and then you'll see it magically appear on tickets that you have. Again, not really necessary. Okay, so first thing we need to do, what I say, create a Creator app. Okay, if you haven't done so before, to create a Creator app, it's pretty easy. You just go to creator.zoho.com and then you're going to just say new application. You're going to create from scratch, you name it, and that just creates the basis of it. Then it's like an empty app. And then I've already built one here just for the sake of time, so you're not having to see me build it. But basically what you'd have is you have nothing in here, and you'd go to the create new component, you create a new form. Okay, so the first thing, you create a new form, you say blank, you name it. It basically is a blank slate at that point. Then what you do is you're going to add fields to it. So again, I just kept this very, very simple. You can always build off of it and make it more robust. But for the time being, all I have here is a single line field for the ticket number to carry over, single line field for the ticket ID. These are also strings. They're not like integers. They're not numbers. I just did simple strings. A link to the ticket, so that's a URL field. And then this little funny looking thing is an integration. So this is going to pull in the customer from the CRM, or at least a list of customers. So if we look at these on the left-hand side, here's all the fields you can select from. We're not going into all of them today. We're just going to show you the basics of what I did to build this. You've got a single line here, single line. The link is right here. You can see that little icon represents that. And then the integrations are down here. So integration, you click on this. Actually, if I drag it over, this is what it looks like. You're going to pick from the CRM. You're going to pick the CRM. The module I happen to do here was accounts. And then the field is the account name. Done. So that's basically what this one is. As you can see, if you click on it, I named it customer. You can rename it. And then you can see it's from the CRM and it's pulling from the accounts module. I can't change this now. If you needed to change it, you just have to delete that field and then add different field. So you can pull from contacts, you can pull from deals, all kinds of stuff. We're not covering, again, that on this particular video. Okay, so building it, we build out that piece of it. Then you see there's line items here. Well, the line items, if we look at building this, let me go to access the application. You have a ticket number, ticket ID. What we're going to do is we're going to feed that information in from that dynamic link that's going to be in Desk. We're going to pull the ticket number, we're going to pull the ticket ID, and then we have the ability to link to the ticket, which would look like this. So you click on that, now you can go right back from that list of estimates that you created. Come on, stop. Then it would take you right back to the ticket that's represented. So that's what, and in fact, I think I deleted why aren't you going back? This is fun. There we go. I think I deleted a little function that would build that link. So that'll be fun during this video. I'll actually rebuild it because I just remembered just before doing the video, I removed that workflow, I think. Anyways, so what we're going to do, so the line items down here, you could, if you look at line items, I'm pulling from products. This is, again, another integration for CRM. I'll show you what that looks like. Put in a description, quantity, and price. This is what's going to build the line items within that sales order, and then what sales order is it pointing to. So you can go in here individually. That's kind of lame, though. So instead, what we'll do is embed a subform within the sales order. So that way we're automatically connecting, and it's a lot cleaner to do. So building the sales order line items, if we go back into the edit. So to have this connect up right, the way you set this up is first, you'd set up the initial, let's say, 4 header information. That's the main sales order information. Don't add the subform. Actually, create the sales order line items first. So you'd create this as a new form. The new form, as you can see, includes an integration of product, a description of a multi-line field, that's this one, quantity, which is an actual number, because you would probably do some math with that. Right now I don't have to worry about it. And then price, which is down here, it's a currency one. Okay? And then the sales order. So don't do this one just yet. So you don't want to add this yet. What you want to do is go back into sales orders, add a subform, and the subform is going to point, as you can see here, to the sales order line items. And then once you do that, then you go into sales order line items and you add this, what's called a lookup field, which is down here, this lookup field. So the lookup field, once you do that, it's going to show a connection between the two right here. So you can see, and it will ask you, what do you want to see in the sales order? It's going to be the line that they're the line items. So hopefully that makes sense. You just want, there's an order of operation you want to do with that though. Again, create the form for the line items, go into sales orders, do the subform, then go back to the sales order line. I've done this over and over again where I have to reverse it and fix it. Then you add the lookup pointing to the sales order. It'll bring up that you have a cross representation. So maybe I'll have to, depending on your comments, if you add comments down below, I might have to edit this and show that piece of it. But I think it's pretty straightforward once you go through those steps. Anyways, okay. So first what I did is I said, okay, let's just use this form. And what you can do is pre-populate up here. You say ticket number, just to test this out so you can see it. So let's say there's a ticket called 109. Well, you see how if I put a parameter up here in the URL of ticket underscore number equals 109, this field, that's its label is ticket underscore number 109. And what it's doing is just going to pre-populate that because I'm putting it in the parameter. So then I can, if I want to add another one, I say, and ticket ID equals 444. So you can see now I've got ticket 109 pre-populates, ticket ID 444 populates. Okay, but this kind of doesn't really look very clean. So what we want to do is actually create a page on its own that would do the same thing. So this is a little bit trickier because I can't, if I just created a page and embedded the form, it's not going to pre-populate based on the URL. So we've got to do something a little special with this. So we're going to edit. What I've done is I created a page. So that's right here, this page. Blank page, I name it, and then what happens is you end up with a blank slate. What I did is I added sales orders, which is a form. So you can see the form right here. All I did is I dragged and dropped this over there, and it looks like this. So now I can configure this sales order form. I could put success message and all this stuff. I didn't even bother with that. Field values. So I can pre-populate just like I did with the parameters in the URL, the ticket number and the ticket ID. But what are these things? Okay, so much for one take. I don't know if I haven't heard the recording yet, and I just don't have the time to redo this and make it super fantastic. So if you heard dogs barking in the background, I apologize. We do this like, you know, the delivery Walmart orders, and we just had somebody deliver one little piece of it. Anywho, more than you probably need to know. As you can see, this is low budget production quality here. Okay, so I think what I was saying is we needed to pre-populate these field values, and how do you do that? So what you do is you're in the page right now. As you go to this little sprocket up here, you'll see here you've got the ability to add parameters. So this is where I put a ticket number and a ticket ID. So that's what those two, you add these, and then what happens is when the page loads and it has those parameters, you tie those here. So what these look like is it's going to say page parameters, and you just pick it. So if you add one, what it's going to say is, all right, what do you have in that form? These are the items. And if you had a page parameter, like if I did link to ticket and I actually pulled that page parameter in, I could pick from it here. I just don't have it. There's only two. So let me get rid of that. Okay, done. All right. So now we have the basis for making that dynamic link. One other thing we have in that dynamic link is a way for changing the way this appears. So this is a page, but really it doesn't look any different than the actual order form. And when you see this pull up, like if I did a link to it, it looks kind of funny to find this form. You can do what's called a form perma. So let me show you what that looks like. If I go like this, and it removes this stuff. So it's just more or less the form itself. So form perma. You see how it clears out that, but it just looks kind of funny, like adding a new line item here. You have to scroll and it looks kind of lame. That's why I created the page, so it would look a little better. So now if I come up here and I look at the, what was it called? Let me go back. The page. So again, if I just did the page, it looks like this, kind of lame. But when I use a page, it takes up the whole real estate of the tab. I'll show you what I mean. So if I do a page perma, well, now it cleared out the sidebar, but it makes it look a little cleaner. So at least just for the user, they come here, it'll look a lot better. So this is what we're going to take, is the page perma. So now I'm going to show you if I have, see, I have to do question mark, ticket number equals 109 again. I do a page perma, it's going to populate that. That's because of the parameters and the thing I did just the step before. Okay, so this is the basis of what we're going to do. And let's say the next thing is the ticket ID, right? So I think it was ticket ID equals, oh, maybe it wasn't. No, it was TID, remember? So even though the ticket ID is the label here, that's not what I used for the parameter of that page. I used TID. So I think I did this just to illustrate the fact that you don't have to do the actual field label like we did with ticket number. This could be TN. It could just be T. But I put in ticket number as the page parameter. And then TID, so again, you could label it whatever, and you just point it. That's like, I want the TID to go there. And that's what's going to do. Yeah, I removed the whole link to ticket. Is when the page loads. In fact, we'll probably do this in this video if you like. Is when the page loads to pull the information from the ticket and put the link to the ticket there. Actually, this is probably a good idea because pushing a URL into Creator is kind of funky. So it's probably good that I'll do that on this video. Okay, so we've got the basis for what we want to do, and it's basically just copy this. And we're going to put it into the as a workflow and a function in Desk. Okay, so first thing is we need to add this field, right? So we're going to come over here. Now I'm in Desk, just so you know. I'm in Desk. Make sure I'm recording here. Yeah, okay. So you go to Layouts and Fields. This happens to be the layout that we're working in. It's called this Emerald one. If you had another one, you could add it to that. Here's the field that you have in the ticket, and you can see I've got this link to sales order creator. So all I really did is I just went over here to this URL and just dragged and dropped one onto the page. That's all I did. Okay, so that's all it is. It's just a URL field. There's nothing special, nothing here. That's like super fancy, right? Okay, so I just added to the field. You can drag them and drop and move them around. I just put it right here. Okay, so let's cancel that. We've got the field now. Fantastic. All right, now what we're going to do, why do I have two of these open? Okay, so let's go back again to setup. So what did I say I was going to do? Create a Creator app and form. We did that. Create a field in Desk. We just did that. Create a workflow in Desk with a function to create dynamic link for the ticket record. Okay, so now let's go here to setup, and we're going to go to workflows. And I created a new rule based on tickets. I just named it. And it basically says, okay, what do you want to do? You want to execute on the creation. So anytime a ticket is created, automatically update that field. I suppose I could do this too. Let's take a look at what this one is. No, that's actually when a field is updated. I don't want that. So let's cancel because I don't want to change this. Okay, so create sales order, it's on creation. And the criteria, I said there's no criteria. We could, if we wanted to, say, okay, for this particular type of ticket, then create it or edit that link. And then actions below is what are you going to do here? If you have an action, so let's say we have custom functions, you have new and existing. So since we already created it, we have it on this video clearly. It's already created because you can see it right here. You could just create a new one here. Again, for the sake of time, we're just going to go into the actual custom function, which actually I had in this window right here. Okay, so now we're going to go to this custom function. So you need the org. What we're going to do is we're going to pull the ticket information so we can get the ticket number, because the ID of the ticket, we don't have the ticket number, we just have the ID of it. And here you can see I have this thing commented out. And what that is hide it from the code when it's going through the code. And the easy way to do that is I'm on a Mac right now and it's just command /. You can toggle that, or you could type 2 slashes if you wanted to. But again, I think it's control /. Do they have keyboard shortcuts down here? I think they do right here. Right here. As you can see, this comment /. Okay. All right, org ID. Now this is funny because you need the org ID, but you're like, where do I find the org ID in here? If I go into, I'm still in Desk, like in Books, let me go to Books. In Books, most of the time you can go here and you're like, oh, here's the organization ID. Really easy to find. In Desk, they like bury it. So let me go into Setup, go into, I gotta remember where it's at. It's in Developer Space, API. This is where you find yours. Go way down here. It's one of those things like literally buried down in org ID. So that's where you find yours. Again, to take those steps, you go into Setup, API, scroll to the bottom, org ID. That's where that's at. Okay, so let me go back into, I'm at functions, create sales order link. The other way you could get into that, and you can see it's tied to a workflow right here. Okay, create sales order link. That's where you can kind of confirm that's the one I'm looking in. So edit, now we're back here. So I got that org ID. I use that org ID in a deluge function, I think they call it. And forgive me, I mean, I'm not technical, but I know what I'm doing. So the terminology, it might be a method or something. Anyways, if you're curious what you need for these three things, always just type in the thing you need to do. So here's Zoho Desk. You just start typing it, and you've got your options. Create a related record, search records, get records. Here's get record by ID. That's how you get the record. You're going to say you need the org ID. It tells you a hint, which is really nice. You've got the module you're pulling from. So if I say the org ID, because I've already put it right here, it makes it easy. The module, it already tells you, and you can select from it. So tickets, the record ID, which we're going to feed into this. As you can see over here, that's called the arguments that you're going to feed into it is ID, and I'll show you that. And that's how we build it. The other thing is connection. So if like we were to do things to connect out into other apps, we're not doing it here, but you would go over to the developer space and you'd add connection. So not covered in this particular, what is this? Is this a lesson? I don't know. Video. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to pull the ticket information. How do we know what the ticket number is? Like this, the way this is spelled. How do I know to pull this to get the ticket number? Because remember, we're going to feed the ticket number and we're going to feed the ID of the ticket. So how do we do that? So this little thing here, info the ticket. This is how we first kind of test things. Let me go here and I'll pull out all this. So I just commented that out. I'm going to save and execute the script. Let me, where is the, info the ticket? Oh, I don't have an ID selected, that's why. I hope this is an existing ID. Let me go back here, grab this ID. Okay, and let me hide, execute the script. Okay, so you have all of this here. So you've got all this gibberish. That is the output of that. And that's basically the ticket information. So that's kind of hard to read. So what I do is I just copy this and then I use this little tool here, and I'll put a link in the description below, is this pretty JSON. And quite honestly, all I do is I go to search. As you can see here, I've already got it, pretty JSON, and I grab the first one, and that's this. So you can see it already populates it. Now it takes all that gibberish, and then I go to make pretty, and now you can see what it's easier on the eyes, basically. So I went through here and I'm like, where's the ticket ID? Oh, here's the ticket number. Is ticket number. So you can see that, and that's, so now I say, all right, I want to pull, where was it again? The ticket number, right here. And you want to copy that. And let's go decomment that out. We'll take this out. And so you just and paste that in there. So the ticket.get, it's basically going into this and saying get the ticket number out of the results of that. So that's what that is. You're going to get the ticket information. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to build a map, and a map is how you interact with Deluge. And so you say custom fields is a map, and this is because of the structure of how you would update a desk record. So let me show you, actually a way to show it is go into this here. So you can see, let me scroll right here, custom fields. So the structure of this is I've got to nest kind of the, where's it at? Link to sales order, is this it? Let me look here. I'm gonna have to put you on pause and come back again. Again, sorry, thought we'd do one take. Here's a couple pauses I had to do. That was a little family mediation between mother-daughter. Everything's good now. Okay, so I gotta remember where I was back. I think I got a little stumbled on this map and custom fields. So let's look at this again. So custom fields, we're gonna do this link to sales order creator. That's what we're trying to update. That's what I had a little brain fart just a moment ago. Let's go back again to here. Okay, so you build a map, and the map is how you update records. So this, you'll see this in all kinds of reference materials, MP. There's no significance to it. It's just like that's what everybody does. So MP equals map, and then you're going to put this field, so link to sales order creator, right? This field, but it has to be nested under this custom fields one. So we're going to do this, and this is the URL. Remember, for that page perma, if we look at this, so it's this right here, page perma sales order entry, and then you've got that question mark. Remember how we tested that out just a moment ago? So we're going to go here, question mark, ticket number equals, and then what you have to do is you have to do this. You do this little plus sign and the ticket, so that's this right here. And we're going to get that ticket number. Where was that? Somewhere in here you saw it. Down here. You could probably, there it is, ticket number. So we're going to take that. We're going to add ticket number, get, and then parens, quotes, that field name. And then we're going to go plus, and then the ampersand TID equals. So we're building this next piece of it. So this is dynamic. We're taking the 109 and the 444. Those are dynamic from the actual ticket itself. So then we get the ticket ID. Now, honestly, I don't even have to do the ticket get ID because I already have it. I could just simply put ID here, like this. Same thing. So I could do that just as well. Okay, so the next thing you have to do is nesting. So custom fields is a map. Custom fields put. Now we're going to put custom fields because if you look at this pretty JSON thing, custom fields, that's the way that's named. Custom fields MP. So now we're going to put this inside the custom fields. And then here we're going to do a desk update. So just like we did before, if I go Zoho Desk update, it's going to tell me what I need. I need the org ID, I need the module, I need the record ID, and then I need the data map. So this is key value data map. That's the custom fields, and then the other map inside it. Right? So if you save and execute script, let's see if I still have this. Yep. Okay. Put in the ID. Yep. So you can see modified time. That's a good sign. That means that record was modified. Let me get rid of this ID here because that's irrelevant again. Save the script. We're going to save it. So now what's going to happen is when we create a new ticket, it's going to create that link. Okay. So go to tickets. Let me go into that record and we're going to create a new ticket. And we'll just put testing again as the subject. I don't need anything else. You can see here, link to sales order creator is blank. Oh, I have to go show you how to do the workflow, right, and point to it. You can see here, it doesn't have it, but I think if I refresh, sometimes it'll show up there when you create it. Sometimes you have to refresh it. So you can see now it's created. So I click on it. You can see that it's pre-populating out the ticket number and the ticket ID. If you look up here, ticket number is 109, the ticket ID is this. I know my testing before was referencing 109, but the ticket didn't actually exist. So this is a new ticket. The other thing is it's not doing this link to ticket, and we'll go back to that. I'm not going to do that right just yet. But it was the workflow, right? I want to show you that. So let's go back since we don't really, I have the workflow in place, but I didn't show you where that comes in. Is we created a rule. I think I did show this a little earlier. The rule name. And again, because we created the actual function, you could have created it from here, or again, if you go down to custom functions, you could create a new one or get an existing one, and we've already grabbed this and associated with it. Okay, so that's workflow rules pointing to a custom function. Let's go back over into Creator, And I'm going to go update. So that link, we're going to pull that in. So if you look at within the ticket record, there's this thing called the web URL. So this is the link back to the ticket record in Desk. So we're going to go ahead and add that right now. If I go into sales order test and we go into edit this application. So if we look at the workflow in here, we've got the page pre-populating. So let's look at what we got. Create sales order and books. We're not going to do that one just yet. No workflow rules there. So we have a function here, update link, which is blank. Okay. So this is actually going to be good because it's going to show you a function that we can create, and you can point to this and backfill the link information, which is, let's see, how do I want to do this? We're going to pull in the ID. So do I need to do that? Pull in the ID. We're going to update that record. Okay, so we're going to pull in the ID of the record. We're going to get the record. So I mean, I could say the sales order because that's the sales order record. And we're going to look up in the sales orders form. So right now all we're doing is we're just going to grab that record so that we can update it. So we're looking for ID equals ID because we're going to feed that over. So then we need to update the sales order, but we need to grab the ticket information first. Oh, this is good actually. I'm going to leave this here and we are going to go into Creator again. And we need to add a connection to Desk. So let's go up, let's see, setup. So in the home of Creator, you have another setup area. And this is where you're going to add connections. So we're going to add this connection. So you can add a connection. You go down to Zoho OAuth. And you get to select what you're going to add to that connection that you can utilize. And what we did is we picked Desk Contacts All, Desk Search, and Desk Tickets All. Okay, that's all. We just scrolled through basically this and got that information. So you can see there's Desk, there's Orchestrally, Sales IQ, Work Drive. So there's all kinds of options you can do here. Just to keep it simple, we focus on Desk. We have a separate one for books here, which we're going to utilize. So these are basically the connections that you'll see as I'm looking at the Creator app. Okay, so we are going to pull the ticket. So the ticket ID equals the sales order ticket ID, since we're populating that, right? Okay, so now we're going to pull that. So we're going to say the ticket record equals Zoho Desk get record by ID. Oh, I don't have the org ID, so I need to go get that, right? Here. Oh no, that's not what I want. I want this. My God, what's the notification? Edit, edit, org ID. Big integer. So big integer means it needs to be a number like this. String is it needs to be in quotations. So the module is tickets. And you can kind of see this as a reference point. So that's how they are looking. They're looking for that. Okay, and the record ID is going to be the ticket ID. And then the connection, let's see. There's no connection here. So it was called Desk, right? So if we look over here, the connection is called Desk. Okay. So, let's see. Let's do... I'm going to take this out just for now so we can test it. ID equals, and let's get one of the IDs of the records. So we're going to go here to sales order. I'm going to go to sales orders report. And we're going to grab one of these IDs right here. So that way we can test. We're going to do info, that way we can see what the results are of, as they say, fetching the ticket record. we'll see what the results. Kind of like this pretty JSON kind of thing. It's gonna be a mess. So save. Oh, gotta get rid of this. Okay, mismatch data type function, get record by ID. So this, the ticket ID needs to be too long. So that's taking a string and turning it into one of these. It's basically taking away the quotations around it because that ticket ID is a string field. So that addresses that. Execute. This is good because this is saying here's the information that we have related to the ticket. If I come up here in this pretty JSON thing and I X out of that and I say let's paste it. So you can see it updated this. It was hard to see, but anyways, it's good. We pulled in information from the ticket. We were successful with that. Now what we're going to do is we're going to say the URL is the ticket record get. I think I have to do JSON here. We're going to get the, what's it called? Web URL. Let's look at that. Web URL. And then we're going to info that so we can see that. We don't need to see the rest of the gibberish. We're just going to see the URL. Oops. What am I missing here? Oh, not into, it's info. Good that I make mistakes like this so you can see it. So you can see here's the URL. Okay, that looks good. So now we need to put that URL into the sales order record. So link to ticket. Now here's what's really interesting. You would think, oh, I could just put the URL. Right? Well, that's not true. You can't. You actually have to put that around inside an actual HTML reference. So let's do, let me go up here and we'll take that out. Let's take this. I'm right clicking, by the way, so I'm going to edit that and take this out so you can see that it updates it. So there's no link to ticket. Okay, so let's actually not do it this way. We'll just do the URL so you can see. I don't need to do that. Okay, so save, execute, great. Come up here to this list. Oh, did it actually update it? I didn't think it would. Maybe that works. We had to do it a different way before. That's blank. Okay, hey, great. If that's all we have to do, because you used to have to format it a certain way. Hell, okay, great, works. Perfect. Then I guess we don't have to worry about it. Okay, funny. All right, so let's go back. Now what we're going to do is call that function on when a sales order, let's see. I guess I could piggyback this. Now what we can do is when that form loads, is pull in that information. So this is going to cause an error if you put this in and there are no parameters to be able to pull the ticket ID. It's going to give an error, but let's update the link. So let's create the workflow. All we're going to do is call, let's see, the link. Oh, I got to change that too. I could have put a return on it. So on this function here, update the link. It's not going to be a void. It's going to be a string is returned. We're going to pull in the ID. Oh yeah, got to return it. Actually, no, I don't. I can do a void. Because it should. Yeah, that's probably fine. Let's take a look. Okay, we got that. So then the link equals, actually we're just going to do this app update link, and inside here we are going to put the ID. I mean input ID. Actually, I don't want to do this here. I'm just going to do it on a save. We're not going to load it in there. Update link is on the function, right? Okay, so I'm going to take this one out. I don't want it. On the successful form submission, we are just going to add, because now we do have an ID, is we are going to go this app update link, and then we're going to pull input ID there. Okay, so that's going to update the link. All right, gosh, I went round and round with that. Sorry, guys. Okay, so now we create a new ticket. It should update that link on save. So cancel, I'm going to go ahead and get rid of that last one that was created. Actually, we didn't create it, did we? No, we didn't create 109. Okay, so let's go back into that record, that ticket. 109. We click on the Creator app. It's going to pre-populate. It doesn't populate this, but as soon as we save it, it will. So now we're going to pick a customer from the CRM. We're going to add line items. So now we're pulling products from the CRM. And as long as the CRM is connected with books, then those things should be synchronized and it should be fine. Testing to script. Let's do quantity of 5, price of $100. Add another one. Do 10 of these at 500 and submit. So now what's going to happen is going to create the record in Creator, but now the next step is it's going to create the sales order. So let's take a look at that on submit, and then it's going to load the sales order information. So now it redirects you over to the sales order. You can see what we've just added in there, creates the sales order within books. So that's pretty magical, right? So now if I refresh this, we should have the link to ticket in there. Yep, there's the link to ticket. And there it is, it opens it up. Okay, so we're good. Now let's go into creating the sales order. So it might be helpful if we open up Zoho Books API. And what we're going to do is we're going to create a sales order. We could just as easily create an estimate, but we're going to create a sales order. So what do you need for that? You come here. We're going to do what's called an invoke URL. So that's an easy API way of communicating between servers and even within Zoho. So we're going to do that. Customer ID is required. You can see that here. And then we're also going to pass down here line items. And you can see the attributes. So you've got item ID, the rate, description, quantity, and that's what's going to create this sales order. So let's go back in here real quick. Let's look at workflow. I created a function that you might have seen that before when we were here and on a successful submission. We have that update link, right, which pulls from that other function to update the link on the record. Now we're going to create the sales order. So you can see it's a separate function that we're just pointing to that, and we're putting the sales order ID because the results of that sales order is an ID. That's this up here. And then what we're going to do is pull that back in so that we can open that URL in the same window. Okay, so now we're going to look at this app called Create SO. Create SO. Okay, so you can see there's quite a bit going on here, but not a ton. So what we're doing is we're going to pull in the ID of that sales order, the creator ID. We're going to get that creator record. We're going to get the books org ID, and I showed that before, where you can see here when you click on whatever the account is you can say, okay, that's the 752776, 752776. So that's books ID. It just makes it easier if you create a variable. That's what this is called, a variable, to contain that information. So basically this equals that. I mean, that's what it says. And then the CRM contact ID. You know what? That's actually hard-coded in. Yeah, we got to change that. Shoot. I did forget about this. Because I've got to pull in the contact ID. I'm going to have to press pause here again. All right. I had to take a couple steps and prepare a couple things just to save you some time. Okay. So one thing that kind of locked me up just a second ago was this CRM contact ID, and it was because I was doing testing, is I was specifically grabbing a customer ID. Well, you don't want to continue to pull the same customer and have that invoice or sales order go to that same customer. So this Edkins group right here actually was hard-coded in here, and we don't want that. So we need to comment that out. What we need to do is pull who the CRM contact ID is, so that way in Books, which you can see here, Books, Get Records, we're actually going to search for that CRM account ID. So what we need to do is I pulled up Zoho Desk API. So just like we did for the Books one, is we're going to look at the API and we'll say Get Account. Okay, so it's pretty easy. We're going to do, shoot, where'd it go? We're going to Get Account. We're going to do this. We're going to grab the account ID. So if you look at the ticket information, it is going to have, where is it at? You probably could see it faster than I am. Oh, contact ID right here. Okay. So this contact ID, or account ID rather. So it's the account ID. That's the desk account ID. It's not going to be the CRM account ID. And we want to pull the CRM account ID because that's what's tied to Books if we look at that search. So the search is, we're looking in customers in Books for the ZCRM account ID. So if you look at Books and come down here at the very bottom, you'll see the CRM integration, as you'll know that that field is available to search. Where is it at? Organization ID. It's a field within Books. Okay. So let's come back here. This API v1, we're going to do another invoke URL. Get account ID. And we are going to, I'm going to go ahead and cancel out everything after this just so we can test this. So you can see I did the slash star slash. We're going to info get account ID. All right. URL is going to be, I think there's more to it than this, but ooh, that's not what I wanted. So this right here, I want this. Right? So we want that full address. I was looking at this before, but we want the full address. And now we're going to put in, right, that account ID that we have, which is, do I have the ticket information? I don't yet, do I? All right, so now we need to pull the ticket information. So let's get ticket ID, or get ticket .desk .get record by ID. That org ID again. Let's go here. Remember, you can find it by going into Setup, API, look at the bottom. Now I'm in Desk again, right? Switched over to Desk. Got the big integer of that ID. The module is going to be tickets again. And this is something I could do a function to go call another function within Creator to pull that, make it a little easier. That way we can just continue to call the ticket information. But we're writing it individually just because I'm doing this ad hoc as you know, on the fly here. Okay, so the record ID is going to be get the record dot ticket ID, and then the connection is going to be again desk. Okay, so now the account is going to be get ticket. We're pulling in account ID. Okay, so we're pulling that in. This is going to be a GET request. I don't think there's any parameters. And the connection is, again, desk. So now we're just going to info this. Let's take a look, hopefully. Oh, okay, number 8. What don't you like? Oh, I don't need the typical semicolon. I think it's this too long again up here. Number 3. What don't you like now? Okay, missing return statement provides string expression on return. Error number 3. Missing return statement provides string expression to return. Oh, it needs, okay. Of course, I'm doing a string. Let's do... Let's grab this ID. It's asking for the ID because I have this up here. If I cleared this out, then it wouldn't ask me for the ID. I would just use that one. Of course, value is empty and too long can be applied. Okay, so we're going to investigate that real quick. And the way you do it is we are going to say info get ticket, so we can see. Line 5 is 2. Wait, it's empty? Get the record. Let me see this again. It's good to actually have these errors so that we can kind of follow along what my thought process is. Value is empty and too long cannot be applied. Now that's interesting. Okay, let's go a step further. Is there no ticket ID on that? That's interesting. There's nothing. Huh. Okay. So sometimes this is helpful for people going through this. Which record am I doing? I'm doing this one, which clearly has a ticket ID. So what's the hang up here? Got this ID, right? Let's just get the record. Let's see what that does. Well, go on pause again. Okay, it must have been a glitch or something because I just tested it and it seemed fine all of a sudden that it saw the ticket ID. So not sure what happened because it should just see it. Like if I execute this, this is the ticket information. So shouldn't be an issue. Let's go uncomment this now. We can uncomment this and test it again. Get ticket account ID. Return. Okay, so the line number 8. Org say we need to take this return out because it can't have too many returns. Save, execute. There's the account information. So you can see it's got layout ID, account name. This is all the information that pulled from desk. So now we need to pull something called the Zoho CRM account. And then it's going to be ID. So we're going to get JSON this and then get JSON that. Okay. So now we're going to return JSON get JSON. I think it's, what is it? ID? Yep. ID. Oop. Close this. Test it again. Yep, there we go. Got the ID for the account. All right. Now, the CRM ID account ID equals. We don't need that return. We can clear this out now. So now we're going to go look from the books for the account ID that equals now the CRM account ID. And we'll take out the last one down here. Okay. Whew, that was a nice little detour, but good to go through that. Okay, so there is a little bit of complexity here, so I think that was a good probably walk you through that. Again, so in Desk, we're pulling all the ticket information. We've got the books org ID, which I showed you how you can get that. You're going to get the account ID from Desk. So what is the CRM account ID? Well, at first get the account ID that's related to the ticket. Then you take that and you're going to look up that account, and then the Zoho CRM account, which is a field that's within the account record. So get account, Zoho CRM account. We're then pulling that CRM account and then the ID. So again, just that nested. This is the first get JSON is this. The second get JSON is pulling that. That's what that is. Books get records. So now you're going to get the customer ID. The customer ID, you're going to grab, it comes back as a map, a list. So you got to pull out the customer ID, or the contact ID rather. And then for each list in now the get the record line item. So in the sales order, that's in this record. Oh, not this record, the next one. So if I go to edit this, you see these two line items. What this is doing is saying for each line item in that subform, we've got a product name, which is what is the product name? Literally, what is it? We're going to get the product. So now we're going to books and we're going to search the name of that product. So if we look in, we're now looking at Books API, and we look at items, which is down here. We're going to list items. So we're going to list items, but we're going to search. So search items by name. So you can have name equals, and that's what we did. So organization ID this and name equals product name. So if you look at the API, it's not really clear that that's how you do it, because there's nothing here to say that's how you'd search against it. But the query parameters are basically you just append that URL that they show here. You just put an ampersand after it, and then you're going to add the product name. So that's going to go find the product based on the actual spelling of the name of the product. So then you get the product, you get items, so it returns a list called items and then item ID. You take that item ID and now you're going to put that as part of the line item. So again, we have this map. So MP map, we're going to put it. These are the fields that we're placing on each one of these lines here. So we've got item ID, description, rate, and quantity. It's just pulling from these items, right? So for each one, build out the list. Then to put the header information on creating the sales order, we go here, sales order, create a sales order. Again, what you need is a customer ID as basic. That's all you need, that, and you need line items. So we've got customer ID and line items. Then if you look at, again, that sales order and create the sales order, what's the string, what's it look like? You can see here it doesn't give you a lot of information, just this URL. But what is the content? The content is going to be just the field. It's basically just the line items that we've built. And let's go back to the way that looks. is we have, yeah, I should mention this too, the item list. So we need to create a list, and then within that list, we have these things called maps. And so we create the map, which is building one of those line items, and then we just simply add that MP, that map, we add that to the item list. Okay, so that's what becomes these line items. So you see line items, item list. We come back over to sales order, and we look at line items is the, let's see, where's it at here in the results? Line items, you can see right here. Right? So line items, we build it. Now we're going to push it to books. It's a post, and we've got the sales order info. That's another map that we created to have the information that goes into books. We've got sales order info, and we need to make sure we mark it to string. And then we've got info, create the sales order. So the sales order, then the results of it is, now the create the sales order is this invoke URL that we did, and the results of it will include something called a sales order and a sales order ID. So let's go ahead and save, and we'll execute this. Even though we already have a sales order in place for it, we'll just execute it so you can see it. So here's some of the infos we have along the way. So down here you can see info product name. That way you can see, oh, it's chicken wings, okay? The next info was the item ID, so it successfully is pulling from books. This is the item ID. And then down here, the very last one, you can see sales order has been created. And there's sales order, and there's sales order ID. So just like we did the getJSON before for the stacking, where was that at? Like line items, line item ID, that same idea is what we have here is sales order. That's the getJSON dot sales order dot parens quotation sales order, and then getJSON, we're going to get the sales order ID. So then from that sales order ID, we're going to return that. That's what the return. So it's returning a string of that sales order ID. And if you remember going back into the create sales order in books, so that what we just went over is this piece. So it took the ID and it processed that information, created the book sales order, and then the return is the return of the sales order ID. And we're just going to place that in here, and that's what opens up an open URL, opens up the sales order. And all I did here is basically just took, okay, what's a sales order page look like? Oh, it looks like this. And just pasted it in here. And then at the end of it, so if I do this, you'll see, oh, the sales order is a number here. Well, I don't want to hard code it. So if you remember, again, we close that one out and do a plus sign, and now we can pull in what the variable is. Again, the variable is the return from the previous function that included the sales order ID. So it's been created, and now it just opens up that page. Okay, so we covered a lot, right? Create a creator app, form, build the sales order, create the field and desk, get the link. It's a dynamic link. You click the link, you build the sales order based on a connection between CRM with the customer, and then with CRM and the products. CRM for the customer and the products. And those things are synchronized with books. And if you don't know how to do that, you come here to books, go to the little sprocket, go to integrations, and you'll have CRM here, and you just build a sync between the two. That's how you do that. I should probably mention here, again, can we? Okay, made it this far. Recommend getting an all access pass to Zoho Academy. I think it's a special pricing right now before we really blow up. The idea is we want to empower people. I've been doing consulting for years, and I just feel like we want to help more people build your experience and your skills, so that way, you know, you can make more money. And if you own a company or building a company, is that you have the components to put together some really magnificent systems to really support your business and the growth of that business and systematize it. So we recommend getting all access pass. It's only currently it's only $49. I think we're going to raise the price, and it's going to give you access to all the courses. Now we're still building the courses out at the time of the recording of this, but recommend getting in now because our courses are going to be priced from $49 up to $1,000. And at the all access pass, you'll be able to, it's like a VIP membership. You'll be get access to it. So we'll put a link in the description below. Hopefully this was helpful for you. Please add comments, ask questions. We'd like to see the engagement. Let me think what else was there. I think that was about it. So go back to the beginning of this, create sales orders from Desk via Creator. I know there's a ton going on with this one. Certain things you'd have to unpack, but we're going to build more of these, be more helpful, and just show the power of what Zoho can do. So anyways, hope you have a great day. Hope it was helpful.